The cameras weren't rolling yet. The crew was still adjusting the lighting, and the extras were standing around sipping coffee, checking their phones. But even in that quiet moment, the set buzzed with silent energy. People moved like dancers, each with a purpose, each step counted. And right in the middle of it, Ana de Armas stood in her full costume, rehearsing her lines under her breath. She was nervous. No one would have guessed it, not from the outside, not from her elegant posture, or the way she held her script with steady fingers. But inside, her chest was tight. Her heart beat fast, and the words she had memorized all week kept slipping just out of reach. This scene was different. It wasn't just emotional, it was everything. Her character breaks down. She collapses in grief. The tears were supposed to fall in sync with the moment she reaches out to someone who has already walked away. Ana wanted to get it right, not for herself, but for the woman the character was based on. A real woman. A survivor. Lost everything, KeanuReeves walked onto the set quietly like he always did. He wore no ego, no spotlight. It's just a calm presence that made people feel safer. He nodded to the director, shared a quick glance with the lighting crew, and then stopped just a few feet away from Ana. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Ana noticed him in her peripheral vision. His stillness made her breathe easier. "You okay?" he asked gently, finally breaking the silence. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I will be, just." A little pressure, I guess. Why Keanu tilted his head, watching her carefully. He didn't offer empty encouragement. No cliches. Just honesty. "Then let it be pressure," he said. "It means it matters." Ana blinked. Those 4 words hit something in her. She exhaled slowly. Not all the way, but enough to feel her chest expand again. They rehearsed the blocking. The steps. The timing. There was a small ramp built into the scene. Kana's character was supposed to run up it barefoot, pause, and then collapse. Ana nodded, understanding. She'd done stunts before. She'd done barefoot scenes before. She could do this. The cameras started rolling. Silence fell. The director called action. Ana moved into frame. The wind machine kicked up behind her. Her long dress flowed in the air. The sky above was painted with soft blue and pink, light like a dream about to shatter. She ran up the ramp, and that's when it happened. Her foot slipped. She didn't even see it coming. One moment she was on her feet, the next her ankle twisted. Her body leaned too far forward, and gravity took over. The crew gasped. Someone shouted. But Keanu didn't blink. He moved faster than anyone on that set. 1 step, 2, then he dove forward, not roughly, not dramatically, just right. Precise, calm, and he caught her. Not just caught her, cradled her. His arms wrapped around her in a way that kept her from hitting the ground. Her head didn't strike the wood. Her knees didn't slam against the platform. His hands were behind her back, holding her safely like she weighed nothing. Time seemed to stop. No one moved. Not the director, not the sound crew, not the assistants frozen mid-coffee sip. Ana's breath was shaky. Her heart was pounding, but she wasn't hurt because Keanu had been there. He looked down at her and whispered, "You okay?" She laughed because the question was too gentle, too real. It broke something in her. She nodded, unable to speak. He helped her up slowly, checking her ankle. No sprain, no bruise. Just a small scratch on her knee. Someone handed her a bottle of water. The set medic ran over, but Ana waved them off with a grateful smile. "I'm fine, really." The director jogged over, wide-eyed. That was ... incredible. "Are you both okay?" Keanu looked at Ana. She looked back at him. Double quotes. "Yeah," she said softly. "We're okay." But that wasn't the end of it, because someone had caught it. A camera. Not the main rig, but a behind-the-scenes camera that was filming the rehearsal. It had captured everything. The moment Ana slipped, the moment Keanu stepped forward, the way he caught her without hesitation, the stillness in his face, the focus. In his eyes, the calm and the chaos. It wasn't just a fall. It was a moment. And when someone posted it online a few hours later, the world stopped. The video was short. 21 seconds, but it spread like fire. He didn't even blink. One caption. Read. True grace. Another said, people from all over the world began sharing the clip. Actors, teachers, mothers, teenagers, strangers. They saw more than just a catch. They saw trust. They saw kindness without performance. They saw a man who showed up without needing to be asked, and they saw a woman who stood up, again with dignity, because someone had made sure she didn't fall too far. The studio wanted to hide the clip. They thought it might embarrass Anna, but Anna said no. Let it stay, she told the publicist. If it helps someone breathe easier, let it stay. Keanu didn't comment. He never did. He just showed up the next morning on set with 2 coffees, one for her and one for whoever might need it. And when Anna saw him again, just smiled with her whole heart this time, because now she knew. He wasn't just her co-star. He was the reason. She didn't hit the ground, and the real story had only just begun. The next day on set, everything felt different. Not louder, not chaotic, just ... quieter. But in a full kind of way. Like the air itself held something soft and respectful between every person walking across the studio. Anna arrived early. Before makeup, before wardrobe. She wore a hoodie and sneakers, hair tied back, no one recognizing her at first. She needed space, not from people, but from noise, from expectation. From the pressure that had been squeezing her chest for weeks. The video was everywhere. Every phone she passed had the same clip playing in silence. Some had slowed it down. Some had added music. Some had placed captions in different languages. But all of them showed the same truth, how fast she had fallen. And how calmly he had caught her. Anna leaned against the side of a trailer and stared at the ground. She wasn't embarrassed. Not anymore. But she was overwhelmed. She wasn't used to being seen like that, not without the hair, the lighting, the rehearsed lines. That moment had been real, raw, human, and that scared her a little. You forgot your coffee. The voice made her look up. Keanu stood there, holding a warm cup with her name written in marker. He wasn't smiling like he usually did. His expression was quiet, thoughtful. She reached for the cup and whispered, "Thank you." They sat down on the trailer steps together. Neither said anything for a long time. People passed them, some waved, some smiled, some kept moving. But the two of them just sat. Anna finally broke the silence. They keep sharing it. Keanu nodded. Yeah, it's weird. I've been in films for years, done press, interviews, all kinds of stuff. But this is what they care about. People. Remember moments, he said, not roles. Anna blinked slowly, thinking about that. Is that why you're so careful with how you show up? Keanu tilted his head slightly. I don't think about showing up. Just ... try to be present. Anna turned the cup in her hands. The steam had started to fade, but the warmth stayed. Do you ever feel like people only want a version of you, not the real one? Keanu smiled softly, a tired kind of smile. All the time. So what do? I keep showing up anyway. That line hit her and stayed with her. Filming resumed mid-morning. The crew reset the ramp. The director wanted to try the scene again. This time they placed extra padding beneath the wood. This time Anna wasn't running with fear in her chest. She wasn't thinking about the audience. She was thinking about the story, her character, the loss, the silence, the ache of trying to stand up again when no one's left to hold you. Anna didn't just act the scene, she lived it. When she collapsed at the top of the ramp, the tears that fell weren't forced. When she reached out, there was no one there, just air. But the ache in her voice cracked through the set. Even the director forgot to say cut. Keanu watched from the edge of the frame, eyes steady, arms crossed. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. When the scene ended, the crew stayed silent. Even the sound of a dropped pen would have felt too loud. Anna sat on the platform, wiping her eyes. Keanu walked up slowly and extended his hand, not to help her stand, but just to let her know he was there. She took it. The director finally exhaled. That's it. That's the one. At lunch, Anna found herself surrounded. Not by cameras or reporters, but by the extras. The lighting guy. The boom operator. Even the woman who brought craft service trays. They came quietly, and one by one, they told her what that video meant to them. "My daughter watched it on loop," one woman said. She kept saying, "Mom, I want someone like that around me. My son has anxiety," a sound guy added. "He told me he doesn't feel safe at school, ... But when he saw that clip, he said, "I think people like that still exist." Anna didn't know what to say. She didn't need to. Her eyes told them everything, after they walked away. She sat alone for a moment, her plate untouched. Keanu sat down beside her again, holding 2 water bottles. She looked over. "Did you plan that?" "Plan what?" "Being in the right place?" "At the right time, like some kind of guardian angel." He gave a quiet laugh. "Not an angel, just ... lucky feet." Anna shook her head, smiling. "No. You were exactly what I needed." Keanu looked at her, then not as a co-star, not as a celebrity, but as a person. "So were you." Those 3 words carried more than a compliment. They carried truth. Later that night, the studio got a call. Children's Hospital wanted to ask permission to use the clip, not to make money, not for views, but to show to kids dealing with trauma. Kids who had been through accidents. Kids who needed to believe someone would be there to catch them even when they fell unexpectedly. Anna said yes before the studio could finish the sentence. Then something strange happened. An older woman wrote a letter to the studio. She was 83. Her husband had passed 2 weeks before. She had watched the video and wept. "He used to catch me like that," she wrote. "I'd fall, and he'd just be there. No questions. No fear, just hands. And safety. Your moment reminded me I was once loved like that." Anna read the letter out loud to Keanu while sitting under the lights between scenes by the end of it. Both of them were quiet. "You ever think," Anna whispered, "that kindness spreads faster than fame?" Keanu nodded. "Kindness is the only thing that travels without needing permission." They stayed under the lights a little longer that night. Not filming, just breathing. And for once, that was enough. The 3rd day on set began with a new kind of silence. Not the tense, anxious kind that wraps around pressure. This silence was sacred. It held respect. It held stillness. Most of all, it held awareness. Everyone walked a little softer, spoke a little quieter. Not because they were afraid to break something, but because they didn't want to disturb something beautiful that had begun. Anna stepped onto the soundstage and noticed something immediately. There were flowers, not giant, flashy. Bouquets. Just small, simple flowers in little jars near the makeup mirrors. Someone had left a note with each one. "You reminded me it's okay to fall. Thank you for showing strength and softness." This moment changed how I see people. Anna touched the petals of one white daisy. Then she turned, searching. For the source, Keanu stood at the far end of the room, hands in his jacket pockets, watching her through the mirror. "Was this you?" she asked, pointing to the flowers. He shook his head. "Not directly," he said. "I just asked the crew to leave something kind if they felt like it." Anna stared at him for a moment. "You always do that?" He shrugged. "I believe reminders help people be who they already are." Anna nodded slowly, and she whispered, "You reminded me too." They were filming a new scene that day. It's not the emotional breakdown, not the dramatic collapse. This one was simpler conversation, in a kitchen between 2 characters who were trying to find their way back to each other after a loss. There were no stunts, no crying, no background music, just words. Anna felt nervous anyway. Not because she couldn't say the lines, but because something inside her had changed. She wasn't performing anymore. She was feeling everything. And feeling that deeply on camera, it was raw. It was risky. They began the scene. Keanu sat at the fake kitchen table, stirring sugar into his coffee. Anna walked in slowly, barefoot again. Her character was supposed to hesitate, supposed to decide whether to speak. When she finally did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I thought you left for good." Keanu didn't look up immediately. He waited. He let the silence breathe. Then he said, "I almost did." It wasn't the line, not exactly, but it was better. The director didn't cut. Anna sat down across from him. "What stopped you?" Keanu looked at her, eyes full of something unscripted. "I remembered who you were before everything hurt." Anna's hands trembled a little. Her voice cracked as she answered. "What was that?" He reached out, not touching her, just placing his hand near hers on the table. "Someone worth coming back for." No one called cut. Because no one could. Even the director, standing just off set, had his hand over his mouth. When the scene finally ended, Anna stood up and walked off camera. Her face was wet, not from makeup, not from glycerin, but from truth. She didn't even wipe her tears. Keanu followed her out quietly. They walked side by side down the hallway outside the studio, toward the back lot where sunlight poured through. The open gate, she finally spoke, her voice low. "That line wasn't in the script. Didn't need to be," he said. "I meant it." Yana stopped walking. Keanu did too. She turned to him. "Do you mean all of it?" He didn't ask what she meant. He just looked at her like she already knew the answer, I think. He said gently, "We come into people's lives right when we're supposed to, even if it's just for a moment." Anna took a deep breath. "You think this is just a moment?" "I think," Keanu said, "this is the part where we both remind each other who we are." Later that night, Anna got a call from her agent. "Are you sitting down?" the agent asked. "Should I be?" "You went viral again, but not just with fans this time. People are writing essays about you." Anna blinked. "Essays?" "Yes. University professors, psychology students, human behavior blogs. They're analyzing the fall, the catch, the conversation you had with Keanu afterward. They're calling it a masterclass in emotional trust." Anna laughed in disbelief. "It was just a moment. Maybe to you," the agent replied. "To them, it's a blueprint." Anna hung up and sat in silence for a long time. A blueprint. She hadn't tried to teach anyone anything. She had just fallen, and someone had caught her. The next morning, a little girl was waiting outside the studio gate. She wore a red cap and held a piece of paper. The security guard stopped her gently. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" "No," the girl said softly. "I just wanted to give this to Miss Anna." The guard took the paper and promised to deliver it. Anna received it in her dressing room. It was a drawing. A little girl tripping and a tall figure catching her mid-fall. The faces weren't detailed, but the hands were holding, steady, kind. The note at the bottom read, "I used to be scared to go to school, but then I saw your video. Now I know someone will catch me." Anna held the paper to her chest and cried. Not out of sadness, but because she finally understood the weight of what had happened. It wasn't about the fall. It was about what followed that day. She walked onto set with a different kind of energy. Not harder, not stronger, but open, soft, undeniably human, the kind that doesn't hide anymore. And Keanu saw it in her. They didn't speak, but when the cameras rolled again, something between them had shifted. Not their lines, not their timing, but the way they looked at each other like two people who had survived something together and chose to stay. By the fourth day, something had changed not just between them, but around them. The crew whispered it quietly, calling it the calm. It wasn't about romance, or drama, or gossip. It was about presence. When Anna and Keanu were in the same room, people slowed down without meaning to. Voices softened. Tension faded. It was like the space between them carried peace. And that peace gently spilled into everyone else. Anna walked through the studio gates just after sunrise. She had barely slept, not because of stress, but because she couldn't stop thinking. About the letter from the little girl, about the drawing, about Keanu's quiet truth the night before. She had stood in front of her bathroom mirror for almost an hour, just staring at her reflection. No makeup, no lights, no stylists. "Who am I when no one's watching?" she whispered to herself. That question stayed with her. Now stepping onto set, she felt stripped down in a new way. Not exposed, just real. Keanu was already there, sitting under a tree outside the back lot, reading a small worn-out book. When he saw her, He closed it without marking the page. "Morning," he said. Anna sat beside him on the bench. "What are you reading?" He held it up. A thin, faded cover, a book of letters, real ones, from people in love. From soldiers. From mothers to their children? Anna raised her eyebrows. "Why that?" Keanu smiled softly, because letters don't try to impress, they just say what's true. Anna nodded, then leaned back against the bench. "I keep thinking, maybe everything changed because I tripped." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe everything changed because you let people see you get up." That sentence settled deep inside her. "I've spent years," she whispered, "trying to be perfect." Keanu turned his head to look at her, but didn't speak. She continued. "The right interviews, the right dresses, the right image. It's the right image. And all it took was one bad step to show people who I really am. And they loved you more for it," he said. Anna laughed gently. "Yeah, but it's terrifying, being loved for who you are," Keanu asked. "No," she said, being seen that clearly. Keanu nodded slowly. "Yeah, it is." That afternoon, the director added a new scene, a quiet one, no dialogue, just Keanu's character watching, and his character as she sleeps on a couch, exhausted from grief. The camera would move slowly, just faces, just silence. Anna lay on the couch as the crew adjusted. The light. She closed her eyes, breathing softly, was trying to sink into the moment, and then she felt it. His presence, not acting, just being. Keanu sat beside her quietly. No performance, no movement. Just stillness. His hand reached out not to touch her, but to hover close. Like he wanted to protect something without breaking it. When the director called action, nothing changed, because they were already in the moment. The camera moved, capturing his eyes. The tenderness, the unspoken grief, the quiet loyalty, and, for those few seconds, the world outside that set stopped existing. When the scene ended, no one said a word. The director took off his headset, looked at them both, and said, "That ... was sacred." Later, as the sun dipped low over the lot, Anna and Keanu sat in folding chairs just outside. The set, they didn't talk about work, they didn't talk about the next scene, they talked about their lives, about the first time Anna had doubted herself on stage. At age 17, about the time Keanu had been rejected for a role he loved, and sat alone in a diner reading poetry until dawn. They talked about pain, but not with bitterness. They talked about kindness, but not with pride. They talked like two people who had walked through fire without needing to explain the burns. And then Anna asked something she had never said out loud before. "Do you think people change when the cameras turn off?" Keanu looked. At her, some do. "Do you?" "I try not to." Anna stared ahead at the lot, the glowing lights, the distant hum of crew members resetting equipment. "I think I'm changing," she whispered. Keanu turned toward her, his voice low. "You're not changing. You're just remembering who you were before they told you who to be." Anna blinked back unexpected tears, because that felt like the truth, not just about her, but about all of them. The next morning, Anna did something different. She brought breakfast for the crew, not catered, not ordered. She had stayed up late, making small homemade items with her assistant's help. Banana bread, warm pastries, tea with honey. Simple things, but every bite carried intention. When she handed a tray to the camera team, they were stunned. "You did this?" one of them asked. Anna smiled. "We all need someone to catch us sometimes, even with food." Keanu watched from a distance, sipping his coffee, smiling to himself. He didn't interrupt her moment. He just let it happen, like always. The studio sent out a press email that night, trying to capitalize on the viral moment again. They wanted to package it, monetize it, sell it. But Anna refused. This wasn't a marketing story, she told them. This was human. Let it stay that way. They backed off, because something in her voice told them. She wasn't just another actress anymore. She was becoming something else. Someone else. Someone who didn't just act in front of the camera, but lived a kind of truth even when the spotlight wasn't aimed at her. In the final scene that day, Keanu's character stands in a doorway, looking at Anna's character with a complicated expression: grief, love, respect, forgiveness. The scene ends with no words, just a look. The script said Keanu's character walks away, but when they rolled the camera, ... he didn't. He stayed. He took a step forward and embraced her. The director didn't yell cut, the crew didn't flinch, and it didn't break character, because the moment was real, unscripted, perfect. By the fifth day, people weren't just watching the film, they were watching the people making it. Journalists camped outside the studio gates, hoping to catch a glimpse of Keanu and Anna together, not because of scandal, not because of drama, but because something rare was happening, something they couldn't fake, something they couldn't stage authenticity. When Anna stepped out of her car that morning, the air was cool. She wore a denim jacket and a quiet look, not tired, not rushed, just centered. Her phone buzzed in her pocket with a dozen unread messages, but she didn't look at them. She walked straight through the gates and towards stage 3, where Keanu was already waiting. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor, barefoot, meditating in silence. No one dared interrupt him. Even the crew tiptoed around him like he was holding the weight of something delicate. Anna sat down beside him, not saying a word, just breathing, matching his stillness. They stayed like that for nearly 10 minutes. No conversation. No instructions. Just two people being quiet together before the noise of the day began. Finally, Keanu opened his eyes. "Good morning," he said softly. Anna turned to him. "Thank you." He looked puzzled. "For what?" "For reminding me that stillness isn't the same as weakness." He smiled. "It's actually the opposite," he said. That day, they were shooting one of the most important scenes in the film. The goodbye scene. The one where everything breaks and then rebuilds in silence. It had no music. Just footsteps. Just breath. Just the crack of a voice too full of emotion to stay steady. Anna's character had to walk away. Keanu's character had to let her go. But the magic wasn't in the walking or the leaving. It was in what neither of them said. They rehearsed it a few times. The director paced behind the monitor, chewing his thumbnail nervously. He wanted it perfect, but he also didn't want to squeeze the life out of it. Anna stood in her mark, heart pounding. She wasn't nervous about the lines because there weren't any. She was nervous about being real. Again, vulnerable again. Keanu stepped into the scene. The air shifted. The moment they locked eyes, something clicked. The cameras rolled. Anna took one step back, then another. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't blink. She didn't look away. Keanu single quotes his chest rose with a slow breath, like he was trying. To memorize the shape of the moment, Anna turned, walked, but then halfway through the scene, she stopped. She couldn't keep going. It wasn't the script. It wasn't the acting. It was her heart. Something inside, her cracked wide open. Not her character. Her tears spilled down her face, and she whispered, "I'm sorry. I can't." Keanu stepped forward immediately, not in character, not as a co-star, but as himself. "It's okay," he said. She shook her head. "It's not, I don't know why this is so hard." Keanu gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because you're telling the truth." She looked up at him, her voice shaking. "What if the truth is too much?" Keanu's eyes softened. "Then we carry it together." Anna closed her eyes and let herself breathe again. The director didn't yell. No one rolled their eyes. No one rushed her. Instead, the crew stood silently, honoring the moment, because they understood now this wasn't just acting. This was healing. After the scene was wrapped, Anna sat in her dressing room, curled up on the couch with a warm blanket over her legs. Her assistant handed her a tablet. "You need to see this." Anna looked down. The little girl who had sent the drawing had made a video. It had gone viral overnight. In it, the girl sat in front of a hand-painted cardboard set made to look like a movie scene. Her mother filmed her gently acting out the moment when Anna fell, and the moment someone caught her, except in the girl's version. A teddy bear stepped in and lifted the doll gently before it hit the ground. The caption read, "Everyone deserves someone who doesn't blink." Anna's eyes filled with tears again, because it wasn't just a moment anymore. It was a story, a symbol, a comfort. That night, Anna knocked on Keanu's trailer door. He opened it wearing a plain black hoodie, holding a book of poetry in one hand. "Hey," he said, stepping aside. "Can I sit?" she asked. He nodded, motioning to the small bench near the window. They sat there, both quiet. Then Anna turned to him. "Do you ever wonder why people are drawn to you?" Keanu blinked. "Sometimes it's not the movies," she said. "It's not the fame. It's the stillness." He looked surprised. "The stillness?" "Yeah," she said. "You don't try to fill space. You don't rush to fix things. You just ... stay. And somehow, that's what makes people feel safe." Keanu closed the book in his hands and looked out the window. "I had a friend," he said slowly. "Years ago, she once told me that the bravest thing a person can do is sit with someone in their pain without trying to clean it up." Anna stared at him. "You do that?" He turned back to her. "So do you." They sat there in silence again, but this time, silence wasn't empty. It was full, like a shared breath between two people who had finally stopped performing for the world. The studio announced they were moving the film's release date up. The buzz was unstoppable. Not because of the story, not because of the budget, but because people had already connected to the truth behind the scenes. Blogs were calling it the fall that changed everything, news outlets wrote. The most human moment in Hollywood this year. But neither Keanu nor Anna spoke to the press. They didn't need to, because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones told in silence. That evening, as the sun dipped below the soundstage roof, Keanu handed Anna a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" she asked. "Something I wrote," he said. "For you." She unfolded it. A short note. Just a few lines. But they said everything. You didn't fall alone. You stood for everyone. When you couldn't stand, you reminded us that grace doesn't come from balance. It comes from being rising anyway. Anna folded the note back, pressed it to her chest, and smiled. Then she whispered the one thing that felt truer than anything she'd said all week. "I think this film saved me." Keanu didn't answer with words. He just reached out and held her hand. Not for the camera, not for the world, but because in that moment they both knew. Asterisk falling was never the end. The final day of filming arrived quietly, like the end of a long, deep breath. The sky over the studio was soft gray, like the world itself had dimmed the lights out of reverence. There was no big speech, no dramatic music. Just early morning. Fog, coffee, steam, and quiet footsteps as the cast and crew prepared for the last scene. Anna arrived holding the same daisy the crew had given her on the second day. It had dried out, its petals curled and browned, but she still kept it with her, because it reminded her of where this journey had started. Not just the film, but the fall, what came after. Keanu was already there, standing at the edge of the set with his hands in his jacket pockets, his eyes focused on nothing in particular. When he saw her, he smiled. Not the actor smile, not the public smile, the real one, the one that came from knowing someone. Anna walked up beside him and whispered, "You ready?" He nodded. "Yeah, you." She looked around, her voice calm, more than ever. The final scene was simple. No tears, no fall, no catch. Just the two of them, walking side by side in the morning light. No makeup, no costume. Just characters who had been through something and survived. The director gave the cue. The camera rolled. Anna and Keanu walked. In silence, and somehow, that silence said everything. Each step echoed the journey they'd taken. From fear to trust, from performance to truth, from isolation to connection. When the director finally called cut, no one clapped. No one needed to. Because the silence was enough. They wrapped early that day. The studio crew packed up the lights. and props. The trailers were cleaned out. Final hugs were exchanged. People promised to stay in touch, knowing full well how often those promises fade. But something told everyone, this story, the real one, would stay with them. Anna sat on the ramp, the same one where she had tripped. She touched the wood gently. Her fingers brushed over the spot where her fall had started it all. Keanu sat beside her, no words, just presence. Then she whispered, "I'm scared." He looked over at her. "Of what?" "That I'll forget this," she said. "Not the movie. The feeling, the truth, the stillness." Keanu shook his head. "You won't?" "How do you know?" He thought for a moment, then replied, "Because you're different now. And once you wake up to something real, you can't unsee it." Anna took a deep breath. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out something small, a folded piece of paper. She handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "Something I wrote." "For you." Keanu unfolded it and read, "When I fell, the world saw your hands. But what they didn't see was how you taught me to rise, not by lifting me, but by staying. Close enough for me to remember I was never alone." He looked at her eyes, full, heart open. "Thank you," he said softly. She smiled. "No. ... Thank you." The video of their final scene hit the internet a week later again. It wasn't part of the film's marketing plan. It wasn't a trailer. It wasn't even edited. Just raw footage. Anna and Keanu walking in silence, side by side. And once again, the world stopped. The comments poured in. No words, and yet it spoke everything I've ever needed. This is how you show up for someone. This is what love looks like when it's quiet. But what surprised everyone most is the conversation that followed. People started sharing their own stories, not about movies, but about falls, about the people who caught them, about the moments that changed everything, not with sound, but with presence. And slowly, something new began. A movement. People began using the hashtag #DIDNT, even Blink, to celebrate. The quiet heroes in their lives, the teacher who stayed after class, the friend who called late at night, the stranger who picked them up when they fell, literally or emotionally. And in a world full of noise, these stories broke through, not by shouting, but by standing still. Anna and Keanu were invited on shows offered front page. Interviews asked to tell their story, but they both declined instead. They released one joint message, just one paragraph. "We didn't plan it. We didn't act it. We just lived it. And if our moment helped even one person feel seen, then it was enough. Thank you for reminding us that the world still recognizes quiet grace. We hope you pass it on." They signed it simply, Keanu, and Anna minutes later. Anna was walking through a bookstore in a quiet town far from Los Angeles. She wore sunglasses and a hoodie, blending in. As she browsed, she saw a small display table near the back. A new book. A collection of real stories titled "They Didn't Even Blink." On the cover, a simple sketch of two hands, one reaching out, one catching. The author was anonymous. Anna picked it up and smiled. She didn't need to ask who wrote it. She already knew. And somewhere in another city, Keanu sat alone in a cafe, reading a worn copy of that same book. He reached the last page and found a handwritten note tucked inside. It said, "The story wasn't the fall. The story was the hand that stayed. Thank you for staying." He closed the book and smiled. Because in the end, the fall wasn't the legacy. The stillness was, the kindness was, the moment they shared unexpected.
Yes.
Unscripted, unforgettable was more than just a viral clip. It became a reminder to the world. You don't need to shout to be seen. You don't need to catch with noise sometimes. The strongest thing you can do is not blink and simply be there.